Hello, and welcome everybody. Today is Saturday, August 17th, 2024. We are in a positive trajectory timeline. Welcome to my channel. For those that don't know me, I am Ismael Perez, the author of these two groundbreaking books, The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, and of course, Our Cosmic Origin, which are both available on Amazon or through my website. I want to thank everyone for being here. And I always like to make a point of reference as to what happened on this very day in history. A lot of you might remember this event if we have any baby boomers in the house. On Sunday, August 17, 1969, one of the all-time grooviest events in music history. I'm sure some of you know where I'm heading. The Woodstock Music and Art Fair approaches its end after more than 3 days of peace, love, and rock and roll in upstate New York. Rain and other delays pushed the festival, originally scheduled to finish before midnight, into a marathon night of music that continues past on. Well, I wasn't born in that era, but I could only imagine thousands and thousands of freedom fighters, hippies. And you guys want to know something? The hippies were actually part of the first waivers. A lot of the hippies that rebelled in the 60s were actually part of the first waivers that came in the 50s and, of course, 40s. So we have, I'm sure, a lot of ex-hippies either on the chat or who are going to watch it on the rerun. There was a reason why there was the counter-revolution. These higher evolved souls that began incarnating in the 40s and 50s that reached a certain level of maturity when they were in the 1960s and so on. I mean, you guys knew that there was something wrong with the system. That's the reason why the baby boomers and the hippies, right? The baby boomers was all of those people that were born in the 50s, but the hippies were actually the rebels. They were the nonconformists. They were the ones that saw through the BS. And I love the hippies. The hippies are a perfect example of how to live in harmony with one another, love, peace, without the drugs, of course, and without the partying with heavy substances, of course. Anyhow, all right, guys, today's subject is another controversial subject that is related to the God in the Bible and the different interpretations given by different people within this field that have, again, their perspective based on what they've studied and what they've uncovered themselves. But I'm going to approach it from different angles. So I guess the question posed, is the God of the Bible the infinite creator of all universes? All right, a lot of people ask that question. And the answer to that is actually, okay, the best way to say it is this. The creator of all universes is something that is genderless, that is formless, that is in a state of purity, in a state of high frequency. And as a result of that, it is more of an energy field. All right, an energy field. That is the creator. When you think of conceptualizing or of even materializing what the ultimate creator is, it would definitely have to be formless. Okay, otherwise, if it wasn't formless, it wouldn't be able to exist all throughout its creation. All right, so the creator of the universes, right? Because we do live in a multiverse, is source energy. Okay, is source energy. Now, the God of the Bible, was an extraterrestrial. So let me say that again. The God of the Bible was an actual extraterrestrial that was, okay, so the way some people define the God of the Bible, they say that the God of the Bible was first and foremost a male, right? Second of all, so they call it a he, all right? Second of all, the God of the old tribal God of the Old Testament has been recorded to be wrathful, to be vengeful, to be a jealous God, and to partake in the wars. All right, to partake in war. Now, I also want to make clarification that everything we know about in the Old Testament was a condensation, a summary of the Sumerian records. All right, the ancient Sumerian records. So it is also important to understand, and I've mentioned this before and I'll mention it again, that the ancient Sumerian records were inverted and corrupted, first and foremost, okay? The original, you could say, authors of the Old Testaments were actually working with positive extraterrestrial entities, which in the Bible we call angels. So people like the prophets, like Elijah, as well as Ezekiel, as well as Moses, Noah. I mean, there were so many of them, you know, Josiah. I mean, the list goes on. They were actually mystics that were in communication with positive ETs. Okay, so the God in the Bible was not necessarily an evil God, although they make him look like an evil God because the final editors of the Bible was no other than the fallen Roman Empire through Constantine. But again, bear in mind that the first 5 books is a consolidation of the ancient Sumerian tablets. Okay, so let's examine that a little bit. All right, so in the ancient tablets, we know about, it links everything to the story of the Anunnaki. So there is our first clue. So we do know that the Anunnaki were the watchers in the forgotten books of Enoch and the Apocrypha. We also know that the Anunnaki had it was split into 2 groupings. We had the Anunnaki that was, you could say, benevolent and protectors of humanity. And then you had the Anunnaki that were negative and manipulators of humanity. Okay, so let's just say that the old Sumerian tablets, which again was a summary that we know as the Old Testament, was actually inverted and translated by no other than what I call in my book the Luciferian Anunnaki, the bad Anunnaki that took over the affairs of our planet. So they rewrote everything to make the positive extraterrestrials look like they were evil, and that wasn't the case. So there are some people that say that the God of the Bible, they even go as far as saying that Yahweh, right, which is the Old Testament God, was Satan, and that is incorrect. Okay, let me make a clarification. First of all, the word Satan means the devil. Okay, the devil is a terminology that was given to Belial of Babylon, not Yahweh of Israel. So there's the first clarification, that Yahweh of Israel was not Satan. In fact, according to the original Sumerian tablets, the ones that were not inverted, Yahweh was at war with Satan. And who is Satan? Marduk. Marduk, who in turn is the son of Enki. Okay, so when Marduk took power during the times of Babylon, he changed all the records. He changed all the records to put to the blame on his uncle Yahweh. And the reason I call him his uncle is because I do want to make a correlation here between the Sumerian god Enlil, who everyone is saying is Satan, right? There's a lot of people within our community that saying that Enlil was Satan. Because he was a wrathful God, he was a vengeful God. No, he wasn't. That's what his nephew Marduk wanted you to believe. Well, for those that are promoting him as a bad guy. Enlil was actually the God of the Bible. All right, this might be new to some. Some of you guys have already known about this if you have been following me for a few years. The God of the Bible was Enlil Jehovah Sus, right? And he was not evil, and he was not vengeful, and he was not a jealous God. In fact, all of those attributes are directly related to Marduk, his evil nephew, half-nephew, let's just call it. The reason I say Marduk was his half-nephew is because if you study the true genealogy of these Sumerian gods, which are really the Anunnaki from planet Nibiru, right? There is a genetic distinction between the Luciferian Anunnaki, which are related to the reptilian draconian Anunnaki, and of course the angelic Anunnaki, which are the Pleiadian Syrian Anunnaki. All right, so those are the two distinctions. So the son of Enki, which is Marduk, was full of about 75% draconian. His mother was Damkina. All right, his mother was Damkina, was 100% draconian. His mother, I'm sorry, his mother was Damkina. No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. His mother was Damkina. I was right. Who was a dragon? Okay, she was draconian. And then his father was the offspring of Anu and Dramin. Queen Dramin was also another draconian. So by the time Marduk was born, he was already 75% draconian, therefore making him pretty much, for the most part, the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. The reason why Atlantis fell, and the reason why all the records were rewritten, so that they could make the God of the Bible look like he was the bad guy, like he was Satan, when in actuality he wasn't. Okay, that was all inverted by Marduk because he was in competition and he was in constant war against his half uncle Enlil, Jehovah, Zeus, Yahweh. Okay, so Zeus is Yahweh. All right, and Enlil and Jehovah. He went by different names. Let me just clarify that. And Zeus was the rightful heir to the throne of Nibiru because he came from a pure line that was traceable back to galactic royalty that originated in Lyra. So he was part of a truce that was established millions of years ago, his lineage, that is, that could be traceable all the way to the original royal blood of Lyra, which are the 12 houses, right? And of course, now we call them the 12 tribes. So the royal house of Lyra was a genealogy that was brought to this earth, right, through Enlil, in order to create or to establish the royal blood here on this planet. And that explains the rise of King David and Solomon, and then, of course, furthermore, the emergence of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So for those that watch my interview with Nina Rodriguez, I talked about how this whole battle between light and dark is also related to genetics. It is a war on blood. It is a war on the seed to see who proliferates the most. So the God of the Bible is Jehovah, Zeus Enlil, who is wrongly, you could say, illustrated as the bad guy, and Satan is Marduk. All right, for clarification, Satan, the devil, is Belial Baal, the god of the cabal families, right? That's the entity in which the Luciferian families have been sacrificing, the little ones too. So he is the Satan in the Bible, not Enlil. Enlil was not. Enlil was actually doing what he was supposed to do in order to preserve the original genetics of the descendants of God here on this planet, which, of course, is the lineage of Michael, the children of light. They're all one and the same. So that explains why Enlil Zeus was very, adamant about not allowing the Israelites, right, his children on earth, to mix with any other tribe that was contaminated with reptilian or insectoid genetics. So that explains why they were always kept intact within their own genetic structure, right? It was in order to preserve the angelic seed of God. So nowadays, there is a higher influx of incarnating indigos, crystals, rainbows, and am I forgetting a third one? Crystals, indigos, and rainbows. I think those are the three categories of, again, higher advanced souls that are now incarnating in human form. So if it wasn't for the proliferation by the original Israelites, we wouldn't be here right now. So if you are a starseed, you are a descendant of these bloodlines, of the real Israeli, ancient Israeli bloodlines, in other words. Because that is known as the indigo blood or the indigo seed. So for the record, guys, the God of the Bible was Enlil Zeus, who was a representative of the unseen God, Source, Infinite Creator, Conscious. And he even spoke about Source. Of course, that information was left out of the records, but even Enlil Zeus reminded everybody that he was only a functionary and doing the bidding of his overlord, which was Source. He was working for Source. But those records were, of course, deleted by Marduk. So when the truth comes out, even people within our community who are calling Enlil Satan, right, the God of the Bible, Satan, I mean, how can you do that? The God of the Bible did everything in his power to make sure that the Israelites proliferated and that were preserved. More importantly, preserved because there was always a hit on God's people. And the reason they're called God's chosen people is because they were of the seed of God. It was the seed of God that came to this planet in ancient times. So I hope that makes a lot of sense in a way. And the opposite bloodline to that, of course, is the cabal families, right? And we've established that those are the descendants of Cain. And who is the progenitor of Cain? Belial, who is Marduk. And who is Marduk? The son of Enki Poseidon. All right. I recently just had a chance to rewatch Lord of the Rings, and it is the same concepts. It relates to the story of how the 10 kings of Atlantis wanted to seek absolute power and control under the direction of Poseidon. And Zeus, send the flood in order to collapse the Atlantean colony when Atlantis was getting ready to exert world domination to establish the New World Order during Atlantean times. So what does that mean? That it's the same drama repeating itself in a new cycle of time. But this time, instead of Zeus striking the New World Order down, this time it's his descendants, the descendants of Yahweh, the descendants of El Shaddai. He had so many names. El Shaddai, Jehovah, Zeus, Yahweh. All of his descendants today are the white hats that are overthrowing the system of the beast. And that was also prophesied about, by the way. So it's history repeating itself, but because we are living in what is known as the fullness of time, this time only the wicked get to be taken out. So I do want to acknowledge some people that are in the house. I see Radiant Guardians. I see Baby Blue Notes is in the house. New York is in the house. Sharon Rowe, Sylvia Foster, Chastine Rose is in the house. Gemini Moon, Margarita, Dorocher, Thunder Bunny 7, and Sandra, and everyone else. Andromeda Daisy, MJF, Nature Boy, Sylvia Foster, Diana Brown. I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So I did make a huge clarification today in order to kind of correct history straight, that the God of the Old Testament, first and foremost, is not Source, right? But was a representative of Source who was actually bad-mouthed and illustrated as the bad guy. When in actuality, Satan was always Marduk, his evil nephew. All right, I just wanted to clarify that, guys. Okay, so, and also, another thing I want you guys to know is that Jesus was actually born into that bloodline. He had to, because the fact that Jesus is, due to his royal hereditary, he had to be born in what is known as the royal blood of Lyra. So we could say that the royal blood of Lyra was brought to this earth once again by the God of the Old Testament, Enlil, Zeus, Jehovah, Yahweh. So many names to describe him. And that is the same lineage that gave us the house of David. And if you guys don't believe me, why do you guys think that the royal house of David has always used the lion, right? That's a lion, picture of a lion, the Knights Templar. Why do you think that the royal house, or the descendants rather, of the royal house of David have always used the lion as their animal emblem? Because it is an earthly representative of the house of Lyra. That's what it is. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, people send me videos with like Billy Carson, and actually it's Billy Carson, the one who said that the God of the Old Testament was Satan, that Enlil was Satan, and I just had to correct that because I have nothing against Billy Carson. I just think that he takes face value what he learns from the Sumerian tablets without question. without pondering if they were corrupted or not. And from what I come to understand is they were heavily corrupted and inverted. Because if you really want to go back to the original records, right, you have to study the CDT plates, which stand for the Cloister Dorothea plates. And those are known as the Emerald records. The Emerald records actually contain the entire history of planet Earth, going all the way back to 560 million years ago. So this was way before the Anunnaki showed up and corrupted and inverted everything. In fact, the Anunnaki are just a small fractal of the entire true history of humanity on this planet. So if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and type them in capital letters. I'm going to go ahead and take some Q&A now. Questions. Yes, that's right. Joshua was always a descendant of Lyra because he was pure. Let me see. Somebody is saying, yes, Joshua was a descendant of Lyra. Question is, so is Joshua came to warn us about Yahweh and the fractals of source? Yes, he came to show how the droplet could become one again with the ocean, how the fractal could reunite once again with the whole. So that's what we are. We're all fractals. And even Yahweh Enlil said he was just a big fractal of Prime Creator Source. And then he was actually an expression, or he was working for Prime Creator Source. So yes, Joshua, Jesus the Christ, was a descendant of Lyra. Absolutely. His soul is older than the planet you live on. Mm-hmm. That is correct. Where did the Emerald records go? Okay, so that's a very good question. So there was a total of 13 records, from what I understand, that were left millions of years ago. During the times of Lemuria, they were there. During the times of Atlantis, they were there. But when Thoth, another son of Enki, decided to defect from the light, and Thoth did defect, but it is believed that now Thoth has been recuperated and he's been rehabilitated and he turned back to the light. But back then, when he joined the dark side, the most important of the records were actually taken off world by the Anunnaki and the Guardians from Sirius B, and then they only left, I think, 10 of the records, and those were the records that were, I guess, they got into the hands of Thoth, and Thoth decided to just translate them in his own way. So that's what happened to the records. The most important ones were actually taken off world. I do have a super chat from Joy. How you doing, Joy? Thank you for being here. Let me see if I can post it. There we go. Ishmael, is it possible for our dogs to become human? And if so, what are the requirements for this to happen? Yes, it is believed that as we transition, right, everything is always in a steady trajectory of evolution. And so there are these different kingdoms, right? Eventually, animals evolve into the human kingdom, and that explains the Earth Terrans. The Earth Terrans on this planet at one point were souls that, or conscious pieces of souls that were living in the animal kingdom that became human. So in the same manner, our dogs and our cats and just animals in general also get the opportunity to become human in a new cycle of time. So as we evolve, as we go into the angelic kingdom, right? Because we're going to become like physical angels on the earth. So do our pets evolve with us, and then they become human. That's what's going to be happening, Joyful. So the requirements for dogs or animals to evolve to the next stage of evolution, which is the human kingdom, is that they have to begin to understand and see themselves as individuals, not just part of the group. They have to start making their own choices. So if they consciously begin to make decisions for themselves without following the herd, because part of being part of the animal kingdom is that we are part of a herd mind or a group mind, which means it's like, follow the sheep, right? Wherever the majority go, we go. So the challenge for the soul that is living in an animal to evolve to the next stage is to gain individuality to the point where they start making their own decisions. And that is a marker that they are ready to evolve into being a human, because once we go into the human kingdom, it's all about, that's when, you see yourself solely as an individual and separated from the herd. I don't know if that makes any sense. But in the case of the majority of humans, who are the younger souls, right, the normies, it's kind of hard because they're still in the herd mentality. They're still in that group mind mentality. And that's why they follow the herd. Where people like ourselves, we're beyond that. We don't follow the herd. Thank you, Stuart Williams. I appreciate your donation. So is Constantine a Christian? Absolutely not. No. Constantine was part of a secret society known as Saturnalia, which was a Satanist cult that would be involved in dark rituals. And that was part of the networks of the cabal in those days, 2,000 years ago. So they were the ones that overthrew the Roman Republic in order to replace it with the Roman Empire. So he was part of that cult. It was known as the cult of Saturnalia. Saturnalia is Saturn. Saturn is pretty much Lucifer. Lucifer is their god. Okay, so this kind of ties into the moon Saturn matrix. This kind of ties into how Saturn is the oppressor. Jupiter is the liberator. Well, who's Jupiter? Jupiter is Zeus. Jupiter is Yahweh. Jupiter is, the original god of the Israelites. And so to answer your question is no, Constantine was not a Christian. It was part of the cabal that existed 2,000 years ago. In fact, it was Constantine who was used as a puppet by the black magicians and sorcerers and necromancers to reorganize the fallen empire into the church, the Catholic Church, by the way. That was Constantine. And to be technical, he was actually the first pope in human history. This is a good question. So who is in charge? This is a question from Danny. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. This is a question from Danny Gearloose. Who is in charge of the 9th and 12th dimensional council? These days in time, I got questions. I think a lot of us have questions. Well, the 9th to 12th dimensional council, that is probably related to harmonic universe 3, which is dimensions 7, 8, and 9, and also harmonic universe 4, which occupies dimensions 10, 11, and 12. So those are two different councils. The Council of 9 is overseen by the Alcyone central star system with 8 other solar systems. That is what the Council of 9 is. Oh no, you're saying 9th dimension. Okay, so the Council of the 9th dimension, I would have to say, is the Arcturian Council. The Arcturians are the 9th dimensional representatives of the entire cosmic spiritual, synarchy. Let's call it a synarchy, because these are different positions and levels of functionary in which these high evolved beings that we all call ascended beings reside in. And so they are all just functionaries. And bear in mind, guys, that these functionaries, these different councils, they all answer to the one infinite creator, right? They're all dancing to the tune of the one. So we could say that the beings that are in charge of the 9th density, or the guardians of the ninth dimension, are the Arcturians, whereas the beings that are in charge of the 12th dimension are the Emerald Order. They're also known as the Elohim races, or they're also known as the original Lyrans. So, yeah, hopefully that answered your question. But bear in mind that it doesn't matter in which dimension you operate in within these councils. They're all part of the Emerald Order, or different levels of the Emerald Order, which is another word to describe the, what? The sisterhood and brotherhood of Melchizedek. Do dogs need a light body when they ascend? I see a golden glow in my dog. Well, they do emanate an aura, that is for sure. But as far as activating crystalline genetic structure, which is associated with light body, they don't begin to inherit the beginning stages of crystalline genetics until they become human. But overall, yes, dogs do emanate an aura, but it's different than crystalline genetics, which is what we would call a light body. But in due time, as they evolve into a human, and as they become upgraded with crystalline genetics, they are going to be able to activate a light body eventually, yes, as they then prepare to evolve into the angelic kingdom. This is a question from Isis. Hi, can you talk about Mary Magdalene's galactic connection? Arcturus, also I heard that they both have an Egyptian connection. Can you explain? Well, many believe that Isis was a fractal of Sophia, just like Mary Magdalene, right? Different representatives of the Oversoul, right? The Oversoul, which is Ashira, which is God's divine counterpart. And as far as Arcturus is concerned, I think that the sacred divine feminine is connected to all 12-dimensional gates. You could say Arcturus represents the ninth council, or the ninth gate, the ninth dimension, as I just answered earlier. So I believe that they are one and the same, right? First, Isis and Mary. They're two different embodiments of the same consciousness. But the connection is this. The descendants of Isis and Horus are also mix with the descendants of Enlil-Sus to create a more powerful bloodline, and that's what gave us King David, to be honest with you. So through the lineage of King David, Mary Magdalene, the early Israelites were preserving the knowledge, the esoteric knowledge of the ancient Egyptians that was left by Isis and Horus. So they preserved that knowledge, and then later it resurfaced as the community of Qumran. So the name of the private, you could say, organization that was left behind after Solomon's death was known as the left eye and the right eye of Horus. Let me repeat that again. The organization that was left behind when Solomon died was in order so that Jesus in the future, 500 years later, could incarnate into, was the left eye of Horus and the right eye of Horus. So obviously they were the preservation of the original Egyptian mystery schools that were later resurrected by the community of Qumran, which is Jesus and Mary Magdalene's people. So yes, there is definitely a connection between Mary Magdalene and the esoteric knowledge that was preserved through their descendants, Solomon, King David, going all the way back to Egypt. Absolutely. And by the way, Solomon inherited the knowledge of Egypt as well, because the original Masons go back to Egypt, right? They were known as the builders of buildings. So all of that stuff, and not only that were they able to do, but they were also mystics, they were also alchemists. They had a direct understanding of, sacred divine knowledge. And so all of that was inherited by Solomon. All of the magic, all of the mysticism, you could say, comes from Egypt, right? Egypt transferred that secret knowledge through their descendants, which gave us King David, Solomon, and then later Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So there is a connection, you could say, between Isis and Mary Magdalene. Absolutely. Do we need money in the 4th D or 5D? And do we need money in 4D? Not in the 5D. The 5D, we don't need any money. We are completely cashless, nothing. The 4th D, yes, because in the 4th D, things are going to be like a future scenario. We're going to have hover cars. We're going to have replicators. We're going to have all kinds of stuff. But it's going to be a different type of money system. It's going to be one based on, you could say, it's going to be a type of system that is solely resting on how much love you emanate from your heart, you could say. So it's going to be directly, there we go. It's going to be directly proportion to how much love you generate from your heart. That's going to determine how much money you receive in the 4th D. And many believe that is the QFS. QFS is going to be very operational in 4th D Earth reality. And we are not skipping 4th D Earth reality, by the way. That's where the younger souls are going to be going into, whereas the older souls are going to go into 5D and above. But no, the higher we go in reality from 5D and above, we are able to manifest what we want at the speed of light through our mere thoughts. So, therefore, there won't be a need for QFS or anything of that matter, if that makes any sense. Somebody wants to know, where did the Bigfoot people come from? You must be referring to the Sasquatch. They come from inner Earth. They are an advanced species. They come from another system, another solar system. They have various names. Some people call them the Yeti. If you watch Star Wars, Jabuka. But yeah, they do have a settlement in the Earth, inside the Earth. And sometimes they pop out in the wilderness or in the mountains or in the forest, which is where most people, see them. So they do exist, and they're very benevolent. And in some cases, they're also very psychic. All right, so continuing with questions here. If you guys could type those questions in capital letters, thank you. Who was Cyrus? Was he good or bad? Was he an ET? Are you talking about Cyrus the Great, who was the Persian conqueror? Okay, so anytime in history when you have a conqueror, Alexander the Great, Cyrus the Great of Persia, so on and so forth, right? Those are working with the cabal. They're part of the cabal networks, all right? All they're trying to do is create a totalitarian fascist system of absolute power and control. Yeah, I like that name for Jesus. Yeshua Sananda Melchizedek. Will Trump be jailed? I don't think so. No, not at all. No, that would have already happened if that was the case. Tell us more about the Emerald Order. Well, they are the Guardian Alliance, the Interdimensional Council of Free Worlds. They exist in all the universes. They originated from the always existing realms, and they extended their protection and functionaries all the way in all the dimensions, from the top all the way down. So altogether, they're known as the Cosmic Brotherhood and Sisterhood of Light. They have many functionaries, different levels, different councils. They existed before any galactic federation came into existence. They existed prior to any creation. And so you could say that they're part of the Council of Creation, which is the Council of One, which is the Council of Prime Creator that oversees everything. And then after that, you have the Council of Seven, right? And then you have the Council of 12. And then you have the Council of 9, and then the Council of 5, and then the Council of 24. So all of these councils operate under the Emerald Order. So yeah, they are they are the ones that set the blueprint for creation, and they are the ones that are tasked to preserve and protect the creation. Absolutely. So what does that mean? That a lot of us, a lot of the star children or star adults now, a lot of the people that incarnated, that chose to come here at this time, are all working for the Emerald Order. They're all working for the Emerald Order. You guys are working for the Emerald Order. Whether you know it or not, you guys all took an oath when you came down here. Nature Boy has a question. How you doing, Nature Boy? What are some of the bloodlines that the Israel people mix with that were approved by God? They were, okay, the bloodlines that they were able to mix with were other tribes that were not carrying a high concentration of reptilian genetics, like the Phoenicians, the Phoenicians, like the Akkadians, like the, you know, people like that. But the people from, you know, the Canaanites, the people from Babylon, and other tribes were forbidden to mix with because they suffered from a high concentration of reptilian genetics. Want you guys to see my shirt? It's a secret government, invisible architects. And by the way, guys, my shirts are available. If you guys want to help me promote my book and wear it on a shirt, I do have them in my website, ourcosmicorigin.com. For those that are interested, and also I do have hats and mugs and all that stuff. It kind of helps my cause. Anyways, I'm going to continue answering questions here. So somebody's saying, I am Emerald Gold. Oh, no, I am Emerald Order. Why and why, I don't know it. Oh, you are. And yes, you have different branches. You have the Order of Gold. You have the Order of Sapphire, right? You have the Ruby Order. And then you also have what? The Blue Ray. The Blue Ray Order. Good evening, Ishmael. Who are Enlil's children? Well, if Enlil is Sue's, and if Enlil is also Yahweh, they're all one and the same, right? The God of Israel. Enlil's children were the people of God in the Old Testament. Abraham, Jacob, Moses, King David, Solomon, the lost 10 tribes of Israel, right? And some of them came over to the Americas, and they were the indigenous tribes, the Cherokee, the Navajo, the Hopis. All of those were part of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. So even the indigenous people of this land, of the Americas, were directly related to the descendants of Abraham, by the way. Some of the, yes, that's right, guys. Some of these tribes traveled across the ocean in order to preserve themselves, because they were always under persecution, and they became the Indians, the natives, you could say, of this land. And they were able to maintain their spirituality, right? We do know that these indigenous people of the Americas were by far more spiritual than the Europeans. And there is a lot of evidence of that, right? These people were in tune with the earth, with the natural rhythms. Whenever they ate an animal, they would pray for it, and then they would what? Give thanks to the buffalo before they ate it. So everything that they did was a ritual in order to honor God and Mother Earth. So there you go. Now, that's another revelation, right? The natives of the Americas, the Navajo, the Hopi, the Cherokee, they were all part of ancient Israelites. And that's one thing that I do agree with the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon, I'm not Mormon or anything, but in the Book of Mormon, it talks about how the Indians of the Americas were actually tribes of Israel that left 4,000, 5,000 years ago to cross over into the Americas and establish, their civilizations here in freedom. So the Mormons were right about that. The Indians are descendants of ancient Israelites, absolutely. The Navajo, the Hopi, the Cherokee, and so on and so forth. So the Paladorian Covenant. All right, so the Paladorian Covenant was the interdimensional agreement that was set into motion by the Emerald Order when they first created our universe. And that agreement was actually anchored in Sirius. So Sirius B, the big blue star, is the epicenter of the Paladorian Covenant. It is the agreement that is in total alignment with the law of one material, right? In service to others, living by spiritual rules and laws and principles. It is an agreement that was left by the Guardians and all of the Guardian races that allow them to pretty much preserve and protect humanity until the day of Ascension, which is now. So we could say that the functionaries of the Paladorian Covenant are the reason why we are now getting ready to ascend. And nothing is going to interfere with that. Nothing is going to interfere with the ascension timeline of the Earth. All right, so please explain why Joshua didn't endorse Yahweh in the Bible. Again, that was a mistranslation by Belial Marduk, who rewrote the entire Old Testament to make him look like the one God. He was the one that was trying to pass as the one God, by the way. And he was the jealous God, and he was the tribal God and the warring God. It wasn't Enlil Yahweh. It was Marduk, Satan, Belial. So, all right, to answer your question, Jesus knew that the God of the Old Testament wasn't the one infinite creator, what we call source, the creator of all universes. He knew that. But he also knew that Zeus, Yahweh, was his progenitor. In other words, Jesus knew that he was a descendant of Yahweh, Zeus. So that's the best way to describe it. But as far as him not recognizing him, he did recognize him, but not as the one God, not as the one true God. He just recognized him as an angel, right? Or as a messenger of God, in other words. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. How do we raise our vibration, and how do we know if we're a starseed? Good question. Well, there are many ways in which you could raise your vibration. First and foremost, you have to be mindful of your thoughts, right? Thoughts generate a frequency. Second of all, you have to implement a daily meditative practice, whether it's breathing techniques, whether it's mindfulness, anything to calm your mind, to connect you with God, right? Which is source. Third of all, you have to watch what you eat. You have to watch what you eat. It's very important that you understand that what you put in your body is affecting your ascension if it's bad. If it's good, it's raising your frequency. So there are many ways to raise your frequency and know that you are ascending with the Earth. But also understand, guys, that the Earth as a whole is ascending. So as long as you're at least, according to the law of one material, all you have to be is 51% service to others to ascend. You know, to make it into the new earth. Now, if you want to go beyond the 5th dimension, because we are going to be having access all the way to the 12th dimension, I would say it's best that you really raise your frequency continuously. And how do you know if you're a starseed? Well, the best way to answer that is if you've always felt different, if you kind of launch for home, you know, miss home, if you felt like you didn't belong here, if you saw everything, saw through the BS and you became a nonconformist, you question everything, and those are all different characteristics of a starseed. Most importantly, you feel like you don't fit in, you question everything, and that's probably the reason why you're here on this live. And by the way, guys, I'm starting a new Our Cosmic Origin course. I believe is on the 20th. Let me check. For those that might be interested in taking that class. So I start a Cosmic Origins class on the 19th, which is in 2 days. Find out if you're a starseed and find out what kind of a starseed you are by taking this course. And then I also have another Ascension Basics class that starts on the 22nd, which I believe is next Thursday. So I do have 2 upcoming classes for those that are interested. Are we returning to Atlantis? Well, no. Actually, Atlantis and Lemuria is returning to us. I don't know if that makes any sense. All right, so how Ascension works is, well, first you have to understand that everything is energy, and energy is held together through frequency. So the Terra Earth, which is the new Earth, which exists in dimensions 4, 5, and 6, operates to a certain hertz, right? Frequency, vibration. So all that's going to happen is we're going to be translated from this Terra, 3D Earth, which is dimensions 1, 2, and 3, into the Terra, from this planet into the Terra Earth, which is dimension 4, 5, and 6. So in those dimensions, Atlantis and Lemuria are already going to be there fully intact, almost as if they never fell, as if they never, got destroyed, in other words. So it's not that Atlantis, or we are returning back to Atlantis, is that we're just going to translate back to the Earth, the version of the Earth, where Atlantis is existing in its full glory as a golden age. And then, of course, in the Pacific Ocean, we're going to have Lemuria. So they're going to be there fully intact. Remember, guys, we were kind of thrown off into a different Earth timeline that wasn't the original sacred timeline. So all we're going to do is shift back to the original sacred timeline. All right, we have time for maybe about 2 more questions, guys. Yes, somebody's asking, Ishmael, is it okay to eat some meat? Yes, it is. The best way to explain why it's okay to eat meat is because the animal and you are really one. You guys are different expressions of one consciousness, which is source. Always remember that. Everything is you. You are the trees, you are the animals, you are the plants that you eat, you are the salad that you eat. It's all one and the same. So as long as you understand that everything is interconnected, make sure that you also give thanks to the animal before you eat it, and make sure that you also bless your food, and then most importantly, use your mind to begin to integrate that animal or assimilate the animal meat into your body to give you, nutrition, to give you whatever it is that that is good for you that comes from the animal meat. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with eating animal meat. In fact, I want to be honest with you guys. Animal meat is very high in nutrition, okay, especially beef. So the fact that they tell us to stay away from red meat is another another lie from the Matrix, from the people that want to keep us ill, numb, and sick, because of the fact that red meat is loaded with a lot of nutrients, especially if it's grass-fed. Okay, make sure it's grass-fed. So yeah, it's okay to eat meat. There's a lot of spiritual people that are carnivores. Let's not become a religion here. Let's not attack people that eat meat just because we're vegetarians. Let's respect everybody's food of choice and realize it's not about, being one or the other. It's about coming together despite our differences. That's the only way we're going to do it together as a whole, guys. Okay? All right, let me give you guys an example. The natives, right? The Cherokee, the Navajos. Well, they ate meat, but they did it in a very ritualistic way where they would offer, they would give thanks to the buffalo before they ate it. All right, so that's just to give you guys an example that you could be very spiritual and still eat meat. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you know when all of this wonderful life is going to happen? Is Trump the start? I believe so. Yes, once the white hats come into open power, right? Power, and they reveal the truth to the world, then that's when we're going to start seeing one thing after another, guys. Which means that we're slowly but surely going to be entering a new world. All right, so 2 more questions. I'm looking for a question. Do you have to die in order to go to the 5th dimension? Not at all. Not at all. The opportunity that now affords is that we're going to be taking our bodies with us, because now we're going to be ascending with our planet. So no, you don't have to die. Your body's just going to be transfigured, transformed, kind of like Enoch. Remember how Enoch was transformed and transfigured in order to ride in the chariots with God? So that's what's going to happen to us. We're also going to be transformed within a blinking of an eye. What is the truth about tarot cards? It's neutral. You could either use it for good or evil. So it all depends on the person that's using them and the intentions that they hold. That's what I think. That's what I believe. But again, do your research on everything, guys. Do your own research. And that's one thing that I always advise you guys is don't even take what I teach you face value. You still have to investigate things for yourself. All right, Rick Vandersteen has a Rick Vandersteen has a good question. Are star seeds in the 144,000 the same? Yes. Star seeds are part of the council of 144,000, which is not just 144,000 people. It is the entire the entire crew that volunteered to be here at this time. In other words, it's all of the old souls that are here, which is now in the millions upon millions. How do we know if we have a new soul or an old soul? Well, an old soul is pretty much a person who, first and foremost, is fascinated by spiritual, metaphysical, spiritual knowledge, loves to watch alien movies, is intrigued by the concept of other worlds, other dimensions. So if you have a curiosity to learn, about the supernatural in general, that is a huge indicator that you're an old soul, because all you want to do is remember what you already knew. Right? If that makes sense. And then the younger souls are more like they just follow the herd, right? They're still they just graduated from the animal kingdom, so they're still going wherever the majority go. If everybody goes this way, they go that way. If they go this way, they go that way. So that's the difference between a young soul and an old soul, is that the young soul does not, they still don't make their own individual. They're not critical thinkers, in other words. So young souls aren't critical thinkers. They go with the majority, all right? Old souls are critical thinkers. They think for themselves. They are individuals, and they have a higher hunger for real knowledge. If that makes any sense. I don't see any more questions other than, what is the difference of blood? Does blood type show where we are from? Well, it depends. If you're Rh negative, that is a strong indicator that you are a descendant of the celestials, extraterrestrials, that you don't have any primitive, genes, in other words. All right, guys, it is time for me to go have some steak. Now we're talking about eating meat. I am a carnivore, just to let you guys know, but that diet's been working for me. So I hope you guys have a beautiful evening. Don't forget to check out my new coming class, our Cosmic Origin, that starts on the 19th, which is in 2 days, guys. It's available on my website, or cosmicorigin.com. And if you haven't had a chance to get your own copy of The Secret Government, it is easy to digest, and it is mind-blowing, guys. A lot of information. We will talk to you guys on Monday for the Monday Night White Hat Update Report.